Yam Shaiva Samupasate Shiva iti Brahmedi Vedamdino Bauddha Buddha iti Pramana Padavaha Kartedi Nayyayiga Arhan Nityatha Jaina Shasanarata Karmeti Mimamsaka Soyamvo Vidadhatu Vanchita Phalam Trailokyanato Harihi Soyamvo Vidadhatu Vanchita Phalam Trailokyanato Harihi Akhanda Mandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshidam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Hari Om, Hari Om. Let us have the three recitations, 3 times recitation of the most auspicious benedictory and purificatory Omkara. Interlock your fingers, put them on your lap, close your eyes, sit comfortably erect, open the mouth as well as the heart and join me. Yesterday I found the chorus voice was not sufficiently vibrant and resonant. The idea is to generate a spiritual mood of receptivity and absorption so far as all of you participants are concerned. Otherwise, this collective voice is supposed to permeate the whole universe, generating, unleashing and releasing its benedictory influence so that there will be more peace, harmony and freedom everywhere in the globe. Understand the magnitude and potential of this chorus recitation and join it with full heart and mind. Hari Om. That's very good. Yesterday I was speaking to you, connecting up what this Bhagavad Gita dialogue that transpired 5,154 years in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, which is about 140 kilometers away from the capital of India, New Delhi. Even now there are people who say we can extract this Bhagavad Gita dialogue from the atmosphere, provided modern technology advances itself to such subtlest levels. Let that remain. We have got, so far as the Hindu society and India are concerned, a set of triple texts, one consisting of the Upanishads written in the prehistoric times, another is Mahabharata, written 5,154 years back, that is Brahma Sutras Vyasadeva. Mahabharata also was composed by him. So one is a spoken record, another is a written record. Now 2 were written in prehistoric times and one was authored during the prehistoric times. One was in the 2 were in the historic times. They alike deal with life and the goal of life. This is something that I would like you to understand. The subject of discussion is nothing but life. If you are able to think in a very simple manner, Everything that we learn, everything we do, everything we think about, don't you think everything has the genesis in oneself, our life? If we speak of a world, it is the world in which we live. If we speak of chemistry, physics, mathematics, anthropology, nuclear science, etc., these are branches of knowledge which the human intelligence has picked up, developed, evolved. If we say, I have a body, it is a body which I experience, I see, I can understand. My family, my body, my society, my country, my world, and my heaven, all these are references proceeding from oneself. That is why every discussion, every branch of knowledge which we are dealing with is always rooted in one's own life. So there cannot be a human discussion worthy of itself unless it deals with our own life. These triple texts always deal with life, life and life. What are the needs of life? What are the possibilities of life? Where lies the success of life? What is the goal of life? How to achieve it? What kind of improvement, advancement and civilization can we bring about in our life and living? This is the only subject of discussion. If you learn a professional subject, what for? To become a professional, to have your reasonable degree of income, to make life comfortable, to look after your family, also have children and perpetuate your community. This is the purpose of life. So without the discussion of life, there cannot be any knowledge worth being pursued by man. Let us understand it very, very clearly. The Vedas have a sanctity. And the whole sanctity rests upon the mind, the intelligence and the heart. The entire sanctity of the Vedas was generated by the human mind. The people were very religious and pious in their nature, in their pursuit, in their aspiration. So they have a sanctity. So far as Brahma Sutras are concerned, they are completely logical and rational. The play of intelligence alone is there, nothing else. I have no time to discuss the Brahma Sutras here, nor did I mean. In regard to Bhagavad Gita, it is absolutely different. It tells you about an event that took place 5,154 years ago. A person like Arjuna, a fighter, belonging to the Hastinapura dynasty, the lunar dynasty of India. There was a huge war in which the whole of India and even countries beyond India participated. 4.5 million warriors were present on both the sides together. And except 10, all of them were killed in the battlefield in 18 days. Can you imagine the colossal nature of the event? Before commencing the war, Arjuna suddenly felt that he should examine the army and take his position. That meant all the difference. What did Arjuna do? He wanted to examine the whole war field, particularly the opponents with whom he had to particularly strategically fight. This kind of an examination is what matters in your life. How many years you have lived, what all you have eaten, what is the type of dress that you wear, whether you are a family man, a grandfather or a grandmother, how much is your income, what is the level of prosperity you have, what all things you have done, all these are immaterial. What matters in substance, in essence, is whether you have made an inquiry into your life. You can inquire into your activity. What is an act? What is an activity? Where from does it proceed? As I told you, every discussion in human life is a discussion of life itself. Its needs, its potentials, its possibilities, its goal, its aspirations, the ways of achieving them. Everything is revolving around the individual life. The individual multiplied is the family, families multiplied are the society, social segments multiplied are the nation, nations multiplied are the globe. Everything proceeds from the individual. This country, as well as in any other country, you will find millions and millions of people are there. But all these millions were individually conceived, individually born, of individual mothers, as a single child. Do you agree or disagree? We call millions, teeming millions. What do you mean by that? Teeming millions do not get born from any womb. It's all the individual, the individual. So here, Arjuna, though one amongst the many fighters, he came to the battlefield, though at the last minute he was not allowed to do it. He decided that I will examine this army. This kind of an interrogation, an investigation, an examination, an inquiry, a kind of an evaluation, this is what matters in human evolution, my dear souls. It does not matter how many years you have lived, how much have you thought, how much have you understood, what is your aspiration, are you able to touch your own mind and emotions, do you know where from do they spring, do you understand the role of intelligence, how can it guide the mind, is there a close harmony between the mind, emotional mind on the one hand, and the rational intelligence on the other, is there a close harmony, a welding between the two? Is your mind responding to the dictates of the intelligence? And does the intelligence respond to the dictates of the soul of truth? What about the senses? Are they unbridled or bridled? These are the questions to be asked. Arjuna did not take up this question earlier. Somehow it came up at least then. So in the war front, the emotional Arjuna, by raising the question, I have already explained it, suddenly from the emotional level, he rose himself to the level of reason, inquiry and intelligence. Altogether, Krishna spoke only 64 letters, admonishing, critically evaluating Arjuna's attitude, mood and dejection. Suddenly, he elevated himself from the level of mind to the level of the intelligence. The tears altogether stopped. With Arjuna's question and inquiry, a beautiful dialogue began. Beautiful dialogue. It was a dialogue between an inquiring Arjuna and an answering Krishna. It was a beautiful dialogue between a warring student and a charioteer master. Can you imagine? Nobody thought that the Bhagavad Gita dialogue would extend to 700 verses, occupying something like 2.5 or 3 hours of time. The entire army stood impatiently but patiently, waiting for the conclusion of the conversation. And Arjuna got up, took up his bow and arrow and started fighting. So the purpose of the dialogue was to invigorate Arjuna, to enlighten him, to give him clarity with regard to what? With regard to life and its goal. He thought it was simply a war, but it was not a war. It meant something far deeper. It dealt with the sentiments of the human, the interrogations of the intelligence, the persuasions and the prevalence of the soul. All these were involved there. No act can be separated from life as a whole, world as a whole, the scheme of God as a whole. There is nothing like an individual act disconnected from the rest. The entire world is a wheel of creation. It is revolving, revolving and revolving. Every one of us is something like a cog in the wheel. And we have to respond to, we have to keep to the rhythm and the cycle of the world cyclic wheel. Let us understand it. We are born as a human to have inner expansion. Let us survive constrictions which the mind imposes. Let us get clarity which the intelligence is aspiring for. And let us have a harmonious personality where the goal of life is understood, the means of achieving it is also clear, and we have the will, the purpose and the readiness to achieve it. The whole thing happened in the battlefield of Kurukshetra in 2.5 years. We are discussing that. Of all the activities, as I mentioned, public administration is the most challengeful, hazardous, exacting and persecuting. You think to run a family is the most complex. What is it? You become a professional, get your monthly salary, you purchase dress, food, etc. You look after the children, send them and you live peacefully. What is their challenge there? Nothing. Become a public administrator. An administrator means he has to take very firm decisions. Some of the decisions will be cruel decisions. People may not appreciate. He will always have to take very hard decisions. Can you imagine the military people or the police officers having to open fire? Is it something very simple? So administration means administration. This Bhagavad Gita is actually a gospel given by an administrator, Krishna, to another administrator called Arjuna for the most hazardous task of administration to achieve which, namely war. Can you imagine? Please understand it. So this gospel is very much human and very much related to our own personality, our own personality. An administrator will have to be very impersonal and impartial. He has to have a wholesome vision. He may be a husband, he may be a father at home. When he sits in the seat of administration, he has to think about the whole nation, the well-being of the nation, the need of the nation, the goal of the nation. What do you say? I am a husband. I will only think of my wife and children. Please don't sit on the seat of administration. Administration means administer the kingdom or administer the country. Now you must be impersonal, I said, impartial, I said. You must have a wholesome view, a comprehensive view. You tell me what are these qualities? They belong to the mind and the intelligence. Any kind of a quality, human quality that you can think of, primarily it belongs to the mind. It is true that we have a body, a matter-energy aggregate called the body. We must have food and nourishment to keep the body healthy and also a set of calculated, very good exercises. That's all what the body needs. But all the activities that we perform with and through the body, by means of the body, these activities are designed by the mind, conceived by the intelligence, and executed also by the will and resolve that we have. So between the mind on the one hand and body on the other, if I ask you which is more important, the answer is very clear. Mind is the creative factor. The body is only a following instrument. Arjuna reached Kurukshetra with full ambition and readiness. With all his readiness, he crumbled. As I mentioned yesterday, the mind crumbled, the intelligence crumbled, the Gandiva fell, the body started trembling, the mouth went dry. Everything went wrong. He had nothing else. All that he could possibly do is to hear what Krishna said. Am I clear? No. Huh? Arjuna was completely down. He could not lift his hand, lift the bow. Then what could he maximum do? Only hear what Krishna said. Nothing more he could do. So through articulation, delivering words, Krishna had to reach the mind and heart of Arjuna, invigorate him, elevate him, enlighten him, take away all the defects that he suffered from, and make him full, complete, and ready to fight the notorious bloody war for 18 days. Can you imagine the power of words? What do you think of words? It is energy that comes out from the body, but it is articulation, but not merely like beating the drum. Every word that we utter carries an idea, an emotion. Idea belongs to the knowledge can. Emotion belongs to the mind. So every word of ours should be radiating with emotion as well as idea. Where is this beautiful transformation going on? So he clearly said, as I mentioned, Karpanya dosho bhagata swabhavaha pruchhami tvam dharma sammudha chedaha yachreyasya nishchidam bruhitan me shishyasteham shadhimam tvam prapannam. Arjuna suddenly changed his picture. He thought he was a valorous fighter, unconquerable hero. Suddenly now he realizes, I am a zero, not a hero. So I admit that I know nothing. I surrender before you. I anoint you as my teacher. Treat me as a disciple and instruct me. I want to be told about the goal of life, the greatest reward, fruition, the crowning glory of life, and how I can achieve it. So it was no more a war for him. It was a question of life, understanding its purpose, mission, and goal. So instruct me on the path of Shreyas, a very important word. He did not stop there. What exactly do I mean by tell me about Shreyas, everlasting goodness, everlasting promotion? What is that? He explains it in his own words. If you are students of Bhagavad Gita or students of life, there is a lifelong subject to study here. Nahi prapashyami mamapanudyat yachhogamuchhoshanam indriyanam avapya bhuma vasapatna mriddham rajyam suranam api chadhipatyam. Bah, very beautiful. Nahi prapashyami mamapanudyat yachhogamuchhoshanam indriyanam. Krishna, by Shreyas, supreme good, what do I mean? Let me make it clear. You are looking at me and you know what plight I have undergone, I am in. My whole body is being scorched by the grief, the sight of Bhishma, Drona and the other relatives in the warfare, sight of all of them. It has put me to so much of excruciating pain and grief. Grief is something mental, but it is not merely mental. It is scorching the whole of my body. I am ablaze with grief. Are you following me? Huh? Have you ever experienced such a grief? I think your grief is constricted or contained by the mind. Here Arjuna says, my whole body is scorched by the grief. Yat shokam uchhoshanam indriyanam. The entire senses are drying up. They are ablaze. Avapya bhuma vasapatna mriddham rajyam suranam api chadhipatyam. In life we have generally only two goals. What is that? Prosperity. Attain the best of prosperity to enjoy life. This is a goal of life. Another is, if I happen to die, everybody is likely to die or sure to die. After death, we must have the best of region to survive. That is heaven. One belongs to this world and the other belongs to the assumed other world. These are the goals of life. Tell me whether you have any other goal. Huh? The goal can only be either belonging to this life or the life after death. So he says, neither of these will be of any avail for me so far as my distress present is concerned. If all of you were closer, I would have put you to introspection and understand the process. What do you mean by children? What do you mean by home? What do you mean by fixed deposits, purchasing land, very good health, international flights, frequent tours, education in the foreign lands? All these are what? It comes under prosperity, enjoyment in this world. Then what is left after the fall of the body? If there is something good and if there is something bad, I want to avoid the bad and get to the heavens. These are the only two goals. Now he says that even if you are going to make me or I am going to become an unrivaled emperor in this world after the war, it is of no avail. Suppose I fall dead in the war and I will be getting the supreme heavens reserved for the heroes, war heroes, I am not interested in. My mind at the moment is not fascinated by either anything in the form of prosperity and glory in this life or the reward of the highest heavens after death. Can you tell me something different, my dear Krishna? Are you following me?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
Huh? I think you are drowsy. See, he says, none of these prosperities that we are referring to, neither them nor the other, both are of no avail because I am being scorched by a grief inside me. If you want me to fight, I must be rising up and fighting, but the grief is so overpowering that I cannot get up. Even if I have to die, that also takes some time. So you must tell me something by virtue of which this grief is allayed. My heart and the mind become cool, comfortable. I become joyous. I become griefless. And I am able to stand up and decide and do what I want. Do you have any kind of a power or a magic with you? As a result of which the grief can be aspirated and inspiration can be instilled. This is what he is asking for. Tell me, is this not the goal of life for everybody? Or something else? Huh? Is there any other goal in life? We want to have a cheerful and a confident mind. We want to have a knowing and a perceptive intelligence. We must be able to stand erect, sit comfortably, face the life situations in a masterly manner, in a harmonious manner, in a resolved manner, and we must be able to go ahead. For all these things, you require qualities of the mind and the intelligence. So he is asking for nothing but removal of grief, redressing grief, and having a confidence and clarity by virtue of which he will be able to rise up, take the weapons and fight the war. He does not want prosperity. He does not want the prospect of a heaven. This is where he stopped his conversation and Krishna began to speak. So the effect of the grief was very, very sweeping. It involved his mind, it involved his intelligence, it involved his ego, and what not. Everything else was subdued in him. The preparation which he had done for 13 years resulted in this kind of a mess, distress and plight. What is Bhagavad Gita now? Bhagavad Gita now is a gospel which is addressing this kind of a plight of the mind and intelligence. Instilling heroism, valor, inspiration, strength, stability, confidence, perspective, everything Bhagavad Gita provides for you. As a result of which you will be able to get up from survive any kind of a weakness and fight. What is Arjuna getting from Krishna and what Krishna proposes to do? He is using the tool of his intelligence. Krishna could only speak. He did not say, I will pat you on your back. Let us go and have a cup of tea or coffee. There was no time for it. He had to speak. So employing his own intelligence as the tool, he was trying to activate the tool of intelligence in Arjuna so that whatever qualities and merits he wanted to have, all of them could be delivered by the conversation. Krishna discusses not war alone. In the case of Arjuna, war was the external cause to produce the grief. But grief can be produced by any factor, external or internal. But the grief itself is a subjective mental condition. Nobody likes it, but we are frequently preyed by it, subdued by it. So the discussion of grief cannot be the discussion of Mahabharata war grief. It is the grief of the human mind, the inability of the human mind, the miserable plight of the human mind. And whenever we discuss knowledge, it is a requirement of the intelligence. It is a prompting, it is a crying need of the intelligence. So these needs, being of the mind and the intelligence, they become eternal, ever relevant. Any time they become relevant to the human mind and the human intelligence. So Krishna was discussing the whole thing. You can focus your discussion on any subject whatsoever. In the case of Arjuna, he said, I am suffering from a grief, which I am not able to overcome. Relieve it, he said. So Krishna focuses his inquiry on grief itself. Are you following me? Huh? Have you made ever an inquiry about your grief? Why all of you are keeping quiet? So I will have to answer myself. See, several times we are aggrieved. Maybe a married partner is responsible, children are responsible, the boss is responsible, the patient is responsible, the neighbor is responsible, national situation is responsible, share market is responsible. Any cause may be there externally or internally. Grief is a subjective development, and we are having the grief in our mind. So why don't we try to understand grief of the mind, so that all griefs of all kinds and denominations will be equally resolved. That is how the discussion becomes very fundamental, very absolute, at the same time very comprehensive. You know how Krishna argues the case? Ashocyananvachojastvam prajnavadamscha bhashase gatasoon agatasoomscha nanushocanti pandita. Arjuna, you are a fighter. You have come here. As a fighter, are you supposed to be in the comfortable chambers of your palace? What is a fighter supposed to do? What is the role of a policeman? To take leave and go for a holiday? What is this? You are a fighter, and by inspiration, by impetus, by choice, by goal, you have to seek the battlefield when it is necessary and show your valor. And you have come here. Everyone in this battlefield, 4.5 million, all of them have come with individual resolve of each. And they have come here only for one purpose, either to kill or to get killed. Is it true or not? Huh? A student comes to the school only to study studiously. Who is a student? A student is one who studies the subject studiously. I always tell the students, whenever there is an examination, we are fearful, we are doubtful, we forget everything. I said, change your perspective. Examination should be looked at as a festivity. What? Examination should be viewed as a festivity. You are taught for a year and you are asked to write for 2.5 hours on a subject. Bah. 1 year of study and 2.5 years of answer. Can you not do it? Now, without the examination, will you be able to pass and get to the next class? So the student should be with aspiration looking at the examination, not with fear, with a lot of fondness. Oh, my examination has come. I will write, I will go to the next class. Where is the question of fearing an examination? Then why should you go to the school at all? Every subject you are taught for so many months, and enough opportunity is there for you to study, learn, rehearse, etc. When you get an examination, you read it with a lot of joy, hope. If you don't understand it, read it a second time, read it a third time, take your breath a few times and start writing whatever you know. If you don't know, how can you write? So whatever you know, you should write. Here the complaint is that whatever we know, we are unable to write because of fear. What is this? Is it ever right, you tell me? We should always prepare the student saying that examination should be a festivity for you. Festivity. You know, in my young days, we had to walk quite a lot. Sometimes we get examination in the afternoon. You can imagine we never had chappals those times. So we used to walk with ordinary, metal road. Metal road will have clay, dust on both sides. We cannot walk on the road and we have to walk through the footpath. There will be no footpath, only dust, hot dust. And whenever we place our foot, it will go deep into the dust. Can you imagine? And we will have an ink bottle and a blotting paper and a steel pen. With these three, we should start running, going, etc., walking, sweating, and finally we go there, write, and come back. But I have never feared the examination. What for are we studying? So mind can do a lot of magic here. The mind is getting unnecessarily depressed by things. So examination should be viewed as a festivity. A good student should understand it. He should be happy that the examination day has come. There are some states in India like Bihar, they say students are going outside that state because no definiteness about examination. It will always be postponed. After the year is over, in 6 months the examinations will not be held. Would you like to be a student of such a university? What is this? So let us think about it, understand matters. Our mind and intelligence can do quite much. So he says, Ashocyan anvashojastvam. You are grieving over those people who should not be grieved at all. Whom are you grieving about? He said, Katham bhishmamaham sankhye dronam cha madhusudana ishubhih pratiyosyami pujarha harisudana. You have stationed my chariot right in front of Bhishma, my grandfather, and Drona, my teacher. There is no ill will between us. They are blessing us and we are adoring them. Now in the war I have to confront them, discharge piercing arrows, relentlessly at their bodies, piercing the armor, piercing the chest. Is it ever possible, Krishna? This was his question. Now, why don't you ask them, why did they come to the war front? Why did they become the commanders in chief? What is the reason? What is their opinion? Suppose you ask them, will they say, Arjuna, yes, you should not fight with us? Will Bhishma and Drona say so? Drona was a person who taught Arjuna. Would you like to hear about it? Yes. Huh? Yes. Arjuna was the pet, the most beloved disciple of his. After imparting all the lessons, everything that you know about archery, finally he gave Brahma Shirostra. He said, this is an astra which I have gained and mastered after a prolonged austerity. I have never disclosed it to anybody. I am giving you this Brahma Shirostra, receive it. So with a lot of piety, enthusiasm, fervor, discipline, etc., Arjuna received the instruction. After giving the Brahma Shirostra, Drona says, now be ready, give me Guru Dakshina, the offering at the feet of the Guru, be ready for it. He said, yes. You know what Drona said? When it is necessary, you have to fight with me. Do you understand what I say? Huh? Suppose you have a son and both of you are military people and you teach your son and after every lesson is taught, the final lesson is imparted, would you tell your son, give me the Guru Dakshina, that is, fight with me when required. This is what Drona said. So you are grieving over Bhishma and Drona. Suppose you ask them, they have come there readily to fight and they have become the commanders in chief. That means there is an open permission, sanction, inspiration, guidance and even exhortation from their side for you to fight. Then what are you grieving? About whom? So he says, Ashocyan anvashojaha. Seeing them and getting into an emotional resistance and turbulence is one thing. But thinking about the war, understanding it, why they have come, what does their presence indicate and connote, if you think about it logically, it's a different matter. So you are grieving over those people who should not be grieved at all. And you are grieving over death and killing. Gatasoon agatasoomscha nanushojanti pandidaha. If you approach the subject, study the subject from the level of intelligence, with sufficient clarity and sufficient perspective, what do you have to say? We are all living in this world. We are all. And so many people, all our predecessors lived in this world. And what did they do finally? You have no answer? Are they now living? Then what has become of them? They have died. What will you do? You are not courageous to say that. All the people who have lived in this world have died. And we are also dying. Not that we are living. Suppose you are 35 and your life is 75. 35 by 75 already died. And only remaining is there. So the man of enlightenment will look at the whole proposition in a clear manner and you will say, so many people have lived and they have died. We are also living only to die. So what is the goal of life? Huh? All the others have died. We are only waiting to live until we die. So dropping the biological body is the goal of life. Whether you accept it or not, we are going to live only as the biological respiration is there. Gatasoon, agatasoomscha. In the whole world, there are only two categories of people. One set of people from whom life forces have departed. All our predecessors belong to that category. And their number is more or your number is more? Their number is more. So the dead people are far more in number than those who are living now. And we are going to be added to their stock sooner or later. So gatasoon, agatasoomscha. People from whose bodies life forces have departed, people from whose bodies life forces have not departed, they are vibrant. These are the only two categories. Now the wise and the enlightened people, those with comprehensive vision, they will not grieve over either the dead or the living. Either the dead or the living. Suppose you grieve over the death of somebody, it means that, oh, he has gone. Now what are you doing? You will also be going. So if you say you have gone, you should say I will also go. All people will go. This is what you should do. Otherwise there is partiality. You are not able to judge matters properly. If the people who have died evoke tears, the people who are living should evoke more tears. Gatasoon, agatasoomscha. Na anushochandi pandidaha. The enlightened people will never grieve over either the dead or the living. In their eyes, both are equal and alike. Either the world has dead people or the world has people who are dying progressively. See, just imagine what is the power of reason, the power of vichara. This is called truthful introspection. Then Krishna continues to discuss the subject. I told you it is no more a war gospel. It is a gospel which started with war as the cause, as the motivation. But Sri Krishna elevates the subject to a discussion of life and its goal. Life and its goal. He said, the goal of human life is to have and arrive at, discover your identity. Discover your identity. We are all born. The entire life and activities and interactions depend upon three relative pronouns. What are they? I, you, he. Am I clear? Is it sense to you? Huh? Your mother has taught you what? Say I, and say you, say he, she, it, they. So we have the first personal pronoun, the second personal pronoun, and the third personal pronoun. The entire activity and interactions of human life depend upon these three. Is it right or not? Huh? Huh? And take the first personal pronoun. I. Your mother taught you to say I. And you started saying I. You have never dropped this I. Every time you say I. The whole fight is on I. You ask for something, say I want it. The mother doesn't give you, you have not given me what I wanted. See, that I is very dominant and you make a reference to it. Where is this I? Within your body or outside? Is it a reference to something within the body or outside? So the I is within you. This is your identity. Have you ever probed into it and understood what it is? Then what is the big question that you are speaking about life? Goal of life. Whose life? My life. What is this I? I don't know. Then you need not know the goal also. Whose goal? My goal. What is this I? I don't know. If the subject you don't know, can you know the action proceeding from the subject? Can you know the object towards which it moves? So there is an identity that we are referring to, I, and nobody is worried about it. Nobody inquires into it. There are some people who come to the ashram and then say, Swamiji, I want to know what is my identity. This is a modern statement. Nobody generally says like that. Some of the people have picked up a fascination to say, I want to know my identity. Are you fit enough for it? Are you ready for it? Suppose I am going to disclose it and tell you, just like Nachiketas asked Yama, Yama answered it, until at last the whole mystery was unveiled. Nachiketa became clear and he came down as an exponent of the subject of the soul. So, Sri Krishna is presenting the identity of a person. Natvevaham jadunasam natvam neme janadhipaha nachaiva na bhavishyamaha sarve vayamatah param. Natvevaham jadunasam natvam neme janadhipaha. Arjuna, listen. You generally think of me, speak of me as a Krishna. What is that reference? That reference is evidently to the body which Devaki, my mother, gave birth to, and Yashoda, foster mother, fostered. This is what you understand by Krishna. Obviously that body was born at a time. Before that it was not. After some time it will not be. But if you ask me, this is not my identity. This is only a residence for me. It is only a biological appendage to me. The real me, the real I that I am. Natvevaham jadunasam. There was no time when I was not. Don't say that Krishna was born. If somebody is born, it means that he was not present earlier. When you admit your birth, you admit that you were not earlier. See, you have come to this hall. When I say you have come to this hall, you were born and you were present only now? No. You have come here and you were present earlier. From that place you have come here. In the same manner, if somebody is born, was he present earlier or not?
Was present.
Huh? If you are not earlier present, can you be present now? From absence can presence arise? So were you present earlier or not is a question that you have to answer me. I am present now. If I am present now, was I not present earlier? Yes or no?
Yes.
Say that.
Yes.
Say that.
Yes.
And never feel bad. Natvevaham jadunasam. There was no time when I was not. This is not true only of me. It is true of you, Arjuna. It is true of Bhishma and Drona. Nobody is going to be killed and nobody will become absent. The biological process which governs the bodily existence will continue to be as a sequence in the superficial or surface level, that's all. So many bubbles are arising in the sea and the lake and they also burst. The bubbles are arising and also bursting. The bodies will get born, they will also die. But the presence that you refer to as the I is not the body. You refer to the body as my body, so I am different from my body. You refer to yourself as my mind, my intelligence, my ego, my house, my car. Every object in this world is mine, it is not myself. I am not the mind, I am not the body. So the I refers to something transcending all these. That I was present every time. There was no time it was absent. There is not going to be a time when it is going to be not there. Natvevaham jadunasam natvam neme janadhipaha nachaiva na bhavishyamaha. Never think that there will come a time when I will cease to be. No. If I am, I should have been. If I was and I am, I will also be. There is no question of an existence ever becoming non-existent. Existence is existence and it continues to be so. Can fire be hot? Can ice be cold? Answer me. Can fire become cool? Ice become hot? What is this? If I am now, I was. If I was, I am, will I not be?
Yes.
This is the discovery. This is the identity. Are you wise? Do you have intelligence? Are you prepared to think?
Yes.
Will you penetrate into your own personality? Are you prepared to think, compare and contrast with ideas? The substance within the body is invisible. Body alone is visible. The entire world is gross. The subtle presence can never be perceived by the senses. You can access it only through intelligence, through reason, through inquiry, through probing, through investigation. This is called tattva vichara, truthful introspection. Krishna is using words as much as your Swamiji is using words. We can only use words. Every word represents an idea, denotes an idea. An idea is a unit of knowledge, a measure of knowledge. Activate your intelligence and think. Is there anybody in this assembly who will not accept this proposition? You are here because you were earlier. In the same manner, you were born, you were present. If you have become present now, you have not appeared from absence. That presence was there earlier. And the presence will continue to be later also. God has gifted me intelligence to probe into this inner presence, which is invisible to the senses, but accessible to the intelligence. Employ your intelligence, activate it, sharpen it, make it more perceptive, take concepts. That is what Krishna is doing, making Arjuna do. Natvevaham jadunasam natvam neme janadhipaha nachaiva na bhavishyamaha sarve vayamadav param. Neither I, nor you, nor Bhishma and Drona, nor the rest of the world. There was no time when anyone was not. There is not going to be a time when anyone will not be. All of us are either present eternally, or absent and absent eternally. Tell me whether you are present or absent. Huh? If you are present, your presence is eternal. You cannot have presence now and absence later or absence earlier. So birth is a misnomer. That is why nobody knows that I am born. Is there anybody in this assembly who says, I was born? Is your birth your experience? Is your birth your experience? Is anybody's death his experience? Then why are you referring to them? Living in an experiential world, dealing with experiential facts, we are always obsessed by inexperiential myths. Are we not shy? Can we call ourselves human beings with a human dignity? With the human power of knowledge, the power of articulation, the power of thinking, the power of understanding? Why don't you employ it in this area to find out, explore and reveal your own identity? So let us understand that we are all unborn and immortal. Unborn and immortal. Unborn and immortal. Yesterday I was, day before yesterday I was, today I am, tomorrow I shall be. So throughout the days that have passed, there was no time when I was absent. I might have been sick, I might have slept, but I have never died. I have never died. I was present every day. And up to now, I only know of my presence, never absence. Then why, my dear souls, you say you are not? I cannot understand. I only pity you. I feel miserable when people say without introspection that I was not, I was born, I was born. Show me one person who has experienced his birth. We say X has died. Please say I have died. As long as you are not able to say I have died, or the other person about whom you say dead, let him say I have died. We say they have died. What kind of a statement, irresponsible statement is this? It is impossible, it cannot be accepted. then there is a fear of life, a fear of death. How can that fear be overcome? So the identity was given. Now he is speaking about what? The death. Everybody has some fear or some apprehension about death. You know why? Because we are not subjecting it to any kind of an examination. So Krishna speaks about it. Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tatha dehamtara praptihi dhirastatra na muhyadi. About death, what people suffer from is a delusion. What? Delusion. Delusion. We have never seen a man who has died. But we still say he has died and I will die. Who told you that you will die? Anybody has died in this world? Or we only know of people who have lived in this world? We are attributing death to somebody, not knowing what it is. So he says, this death is actually a subject of delusion for people. Dehinosmin yatha dehe. Look at the body. Our body is constantly undergoing transformation and transition. What is birth? Birth itself is a transition of the fetus, of the child from the mother's womb to the outside atmosphere. What is birth? The child is actually not born at the time of birth. The child was getting shaped right from the time of inception. And it was growing and growing and growing. At one particular point of time, it is ready to come outside and live as an individual unit, an individual life form. So the child wants to come out of the womb, the mother also wants to, the uterus also want to push it out. It's a very natural process. There is nothing abnormal about it. The child was not born in the true sense of the term at the time of birth. Certainly not. It is only exiting from the mother's womb to the outside atmosphere, and when the umbilical cord is cut, it starts crying and starts respiration. It is a very natural transition that takes place. And from that moment onwards, as in the mother's womb also, it was transforming. One after the other as a stage set in. There also, kaumaram yauvanam jara. The child starts growing. Initially it was a shishu, thereafter it was a bala, then it became a kumara. From kumara it became adolescent, then it became a youthful person. Thereafter it became old age, and finally, suppose you start living 100 years, 110 years, क्या होगा आपको? உங்களுக்கெல்லாம் என்ன ஆகும் சொல்லுங்க? 100 வயசு 110 வயசாச்சானா என்ன பண்ணுவேல் கடைசியில்? நீங்களே சொல்லுவேல் போனா தேவையில்லை இது. See, that is what you will say. Let me go. So let us say very clearly what is this? Tatha dehamtara praptihi. All the other transformations were within the same body. Now the same body, unable to be used anymore, it simply leaves that body. All these transformations were within the same body. Now it exits from the body. In that exiting process, transiting process, you should not find extinction. So death does not mean an extinction. It is only a transition. And it is as natural as birth, as natural as growth of the fetus within the mother's womb, and thereafter the growth of the child after birth. This is also part of the growing process. A wise man will never be deluded there. Arjuna became very clear. I will never raise either the point of death or about the identity of a man. Both ideas are clear to me, Krishna. I am only left with the problem how to meet the challenges of life, how to meet the stress and strain of life. So life is the only subject of inquiry and understanding for me. So Krishna starts a further discussion. He has first of all pointed out the inconsistency in the suffering, in the grieving of Arjuna. And he also said the enlightened approach is to look at life as well as death, living as well as death as alike. Both are complementary to each other. And identity is ever-presentness. Constant presence. There is no absence at all, either before or later. We will always be eternally present. Never worry about it at all. Whether you die in an accident or out of old age, die out of sickness or otherwise. This is only a biological development, a biological outcome. That outcome does not affect the inner presence, which is absolutely supra-material. Our body is consisting of matter and energy. The other presence is beyond matter and beyond energy. In that supra-material presence, there is nothing like what you are considering about matter and energy. It has its own nature, its own presence, its own supremacy. Understand it. Don't relate the laws of matter and energy to what you call the soul or the inner presence. Then what is left aside? He says, Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkhadaha agamapayino anityaha tan tidikshasva bharata. This is the formula he presents for life. Have you ever thought about what is our life we are referring to constantly? Our life is an interaction. What did I say? Our life is an interaction. Interaction means action between at least two. So what are the two factors for interaction in life? One is our own body. On this body we have 5 senses of perception. With the eyes we see, with the ears we hear, with the nose we smell, with the tongue we taste, with the skin we touch. You tell me whether there is any other sensation or experience for you. Tell me. Early in the morning, lying on the cot, you wake up, the eyes open. The first thing you see is the roof. Only because of the eye. The roof was there, but you never saw it. For you, the roof is there only. Then you conclude that if I see the roof now, it must have been there earlier also. In the same manner, why don't you say, if I am now, I must have been earlier also. See, we are making mistake. Then you go to the bathroom, toilet, use the washroom, etc., etc. So it is a question of interacting. The interaction is taking place at the level of the senses. And what are interacting or what is interacting? You interact with the world or the world interacts with you. When you saw the roof, did the roof see you? Huh? Tell me. You are trampling upon the earth, you are living upon the earth. Does the earth interact with you or you interact with the earth? Except people and living beings like you who are conscious, there is no interaction for the inert objects. The world is made up of Panchabhutas. These Panchabhutas are inert. They never interact with us. Early in the morning the sun rises. Who says that? Those who have eyes to see and focus their vision on the sun, they say the sun has risen. Does the sun ever rise? Does it ever set? Why are you saying something very blatantly wrong? Just see. What is this? We say the earth is revolving relatively. The earth doesn't say I am revolving. So the interaction is always from the living individual and through the senses. While in sleep, there is no interaction. When you wake up and the senses are activated, then the interactions proceed from you. Am I clear?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Is there any interactions for you where you, the interacting subject, is not the source and the terminus?
No.
You are the interacting subject. All the other things are the objects with which you interact. So the interactions proceed from you. They are subsisting on you. They are terminating and concluding in you. So the whole interactional life, though we call it interactional life, it is actually a kind of an actional life based upon us. You are the fulcrum, you are the pivot, you are the substratum, you are the content, you are everything in your interaction. Matra sparshaha. It's always an interaction between the senses on our body and the objects surrounding the senses. These interactions, he says, shitoshna sukhadukkadaha. Whenever you have any kind of an interaction, anywhere in this world, either a residential or domestic household interaction, or a professional interaction, or a societal interaction, any kind of an interaction, it will always be producing either sukha or dukkha, like heat and cold. Heat and cold are physical experiences, and they are one opposed to the other. In the same manner, sukha and dukkha are mental responses, mental reactions, one opposed to the other. And one of them, both of them alternatively, will constantly be taking place by the interactions. You don't have to generate them, strive for them, work for them, produce them, preserve them. Just like the day is bright and the night is dark, the sun is hot and the moon is cool. There are so many things in the way of opposites in this world. Similarly, sukha-dukkhas are mental twins taking place inevitably, irresistibly, unavoidably when there are interactions between you and the world taking place. So is there anything new about it?
No.
Huh?
No.
Is there anything strange about it? This is the character. This is the nature of interactions. Sukha-dukkadaha. A uniform experience can never be. Any experience can only be ununiform in character. Can you stare at something for long hours? We have to blink our eyes. Our heart presses. I don't know whether there is a single-legged body. Maybe. Suppose we have only one leg. Will it be all right? So there must always be the alternating, undulating character. So the sukha-dukkhas also are mental resultants whenever there is an interaction taking place at the sensory level. Understand that they are the very nature of the interactions. Interactions will necessarily produce, bring about sukha-dukkhas. You don't have to bring them, generate them. They are in the very nature of interactions. So about sukha-dukkhas, what are you to do? Understand them properly. They are a natural development, natural outcome of the very interactions in our life. Our life itself is interactional. In the interactional level, the senses are causing the interactions. Whenever they come into contact with the objects, that contact will necessarily result in, like heat and cold, mutually opposite experiences called sukha-dukkhas. Understanding that it is so, you have to develop as the goal of your life. Understand, life is interactional. The interactional life will necessarily produce sukha-dukkhas, and you develop your point of view about how shall I treat these sukha-dukkhas. Out of these two, sukha is acceptable, dukkha alone is non-acceptable. If you are able to arrive at a formula to deal with dukkha, your whole life stands answered and completed. You will be able to live very successfully, very effectively, untiringly, untiredly. I will stop today, conform to time. I have not discussed this verse fully. We will continue the discussion tomorrow. Meanwhile, let me know whether you like the discussion.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Are we discussing the subject?
Yes.
Goal of life. Understand life, and let us have the right goal of life. One goal which is true and wholesome for everybody, any time. And if that goal can be pursued, met and fulfilled, there will be nothing else left in our life. Our life is complete, complete, complete. Human being is the best of creation, the deluxe creation. Provided you understand it and make use of life properly, there will be no questions left, nothing to be achieved at all. All of you will be having glorious and crowning fulfillment. I shall stop for the day. ശാന്തസ്വഭാവമജരാത്മകമേകസത്യം സംവിത്പദം നിരുപമം കലനാവിഹീനം അന്തർബഹിശ്ച ബഹുധാ വ്യവഹാര്യമാണം തദ്ദൈവമേവ മമ സർവം അഹം തദേവ. പ്രബുദ്ധം വിമുക്തം വികാരാദിഹീനം പ്രസന്നം സദാ നിത്യബോധസ്വരൂപം പരം നിശ്ചലം നിർഗുണം സർവരൂപം ഭജേഹം സദാനുസ്മരാമി പ്രണൗമി. ഹരിഹി ഓം. ഹരിഹി ഓം. Let us have the concluding recitation. Take your pose for it. Harihi Om Tats. Jai Guru. Good.